have a dog here and we have lots of really cool PlayStation 1 games. I'm going to tell you guys 5 games that you may never have heard of. Molly, do you like the PlayStation? Do you like the PlayStation? She loves it. But we're going to be testing 5 games, 2 of which aren't so great, but 3 I would consider a hidden gem. So stay tuned, guys. So hard to do was this, but let's take a look. That's right, I've narrowed down 5 PlayStation 1 games I don't believe you guys have played. Okay, feel free to quote me if I am wrong, as you may have played some of them. You certainly will be familiar with at least one of them, but until the last few years, some of them I wasn't even aware of. And I'll tell you which ones they were as we take a look at the gameplay that I recorded on PlayStation 2 original hardware. So please leave a like rating, please subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm starting with the worst game on this list. Danger Girl came pretty late into the PlayStation's life cycle. It was released in North America in 2000, so you would probably expect more from the gameplay and the visuals. But as you're going to see, it's pretty basic stuff. I would say something reminiscent of 1997, potentially before that. The only thing about it graphically that does seem really nice to the eye are the cutscenes and the load screens, which you can see just there. The gameplay is pretty basic. It's a third-person shooter. There's absolutely no way to save your game, so if you die you go all the way back to the beginning. It's not too shabby. Some of the jump moves aren't very good. You can do a Lara Croft jumping backwards and you can strafe left to right, so from that aspect it's not too bad. But I'm not gonna lie, Tomb Raider 1, which released in 1996, feels a lot better in terms of its mechanics and movement. So I've actually picked this purely because this is not a list of glory. No, this is just a list of games that you might want to play, you might not want to play, you've probably never even heard of. And it wasn't until recently at a Doorway to Darkness retro game hunt that I discovered this, and somebody did mention it. I don't remember in what context they mentioned it in, but now I've played it and now you can see it for yourself. You will note that it doesn't look that great, doesn't feel that great, but rest assured this is the worst game on the list. I can assure you that the next 4 games that you can see are going to be a hell of a lot better. Hitting the select button brings up a very basic menu in which you've got a list of objectives. You can also press triangle to dive into your inventory. You've got weapons and then items on the right hand side, including this really cool pair of night vision goggles. Not too shabby. Again, I wasn't really sure how much you need night vision goggles in the bright daylight here, but they are really cool for seeing things like these laser beams that you can see through the fence. How you got through the fence, I have absolutely no idea. On the whole, this feels like a pretty 5 out of 10 experience, but it's entirely up to you what you make of it. There might be some die-hard fans out there, but unfortunately it's just not for me. So Danger Girl, a little bit sketchy. Would I recommend it? Probably not, but if you've got a spare 10 quid rattling around the back burner, then that one might be for you. Let's take a look at game number 2. Courier Crisis is up next. This was released on the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn. I'm playing the PlayStation 1 version, and that's because the Sega Saturn version costs over £200 if you to buy it. Why? I'm not quite sure. So this game is a lot better. It's a little bit more pacier and the objectives are much clearer compared to the likes of Danger Girl, for example. You have to pick up a parcel from said person and deliver it to said destination. I was a little bit rough around the edges, needless to say, but once I picked up my pace and I stopped getting fired, I actually really enjoyed this. It does become repetitive and it might not have a massive longevity. You might be able to play this for an hour without getting bored, but nonetheless I would suggest you get this. It cost me £12 on the PlayStation 1, so for 12 quid you can't really go wrong. There's a couple of things you can do along the way. You can do little jumps, but it does feel a little bit janky because when you go to jump it just has that little bit of a stick to it, as you saw there, but nonetheless this is okay. You can also whack pedestrians, you can kick and punch, and it does remind me very much of ESPN Extreme games in terms of its graphics. and the controls. So this is Courier Crisis, guys. You may not have heard of it, you may already own it, but again, remember, it's very expensive on the Sega Saturn. Now, there's multiple levels you can play. They don't really look any different. You can see here in level 2 that the sky has a slightly different colour, but on the whole, it is kind of packaged. It's, I guess, just like a reskinned version of each level. So I can see where the boredom comes in. You may have just heard a cat meow behind me. That's Jimmy, and Jimmy says he likes Courier Crisis and please subscribe. Courier Crisis is definitely my jam. If you were to buy it on the Sega Saturn, you're going to be paying well over £200. I paid about 12 quid for my copy on the PlayStation 1, so I definitely recommend getting it on the PlayStation 1 over the PlayStation 2. Here we go, we're really getting down to it in this list now. Lomax for me is definitely a hidden gem. You may recognise the characters as Lemmings, and that's because this is a spin-off to the Lemmings series. Of course, very different in terms of what you need to do, but sometimes you'll see different things and different abilities that are very reminiscent, such as building bridges, in which you have to do to get through the level. Now, we play as Lomax, and our friends, the Lemmings, have been corrupted. We have to basically free them. You can see that here we're throwing our hats, if I can actually hit my friend here, and then they turn back. They thus kind of release the curse and become normal lemmings again and are free to go on their merry way. This is a gorgeous looking game. The pixel art is absolutely stupendous. I love the parallax scrolling in the background and the foreground as well. It really does add into this qualitative experience, and for me there's a little bit of Rayman in here as well in the kind of platforming elements. It's super duper cute. Now, in terms of price, if you want to collect this, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. I managed to snag myself quite a cheap copy. I think it was £50 at a Doncaster gaming market, but unfortunately there's no manual. So if there's anybody out there that does have a copy of the manual, please hit me up over on the Gebs24 Facebook group if you've got one for sale. But it's really, really nice, and as you can see, the lemmings, they float down on their umbrellas once they've been rescued. Again, very reminiscent of what you would see if you were to play an actual Lemmings game as we know it. I love this and I can't recommend it enough. Let me know what you think, guys. Let me know if you've heard of it. Lomax is definitely a beautiful looking game. Really does remind me of old Amiga games, but looking way, way nicer, of course, being on the PlayStation 1. There was definitely a hint of Rayman in there, like I said in the voiceover as well. Let me know what you think of Lomax. That's right, hidden gem alert. Again, this is my opinion, but No One Can Stop Mr Domino is conceptually one of the strangest yet addicting games I've ever played. You can see the graphics look really nice. You play as Mr. or Mrs. Domino. You can play on fast or slow. I would suggest you start out on slow. The aim of the game is to lay dominoes, and then you have to literally knock the dominoes over in sequence in order to complete the level. This is very difficult in areas, I'm not gonna lie, but I think with a little bit of building the muscle memory and repetition, you will master this and it will become a fantastic experience. Now for me, the level design feels as cool as something like Micro Machines. There's dice everywhere, there's charm everywhere, there's just everything, and of course there are different themed levels as well. I unfortunately didn't get past the first level as I was testing for this video, but I actually am going to plough a lot of time into this, and I might stream it over on Twitch once I've gathered my skill. No One Can Stop Mr. Domino. you've got to get yourselves a copy of this. I think I purchased this around 4 years ago and I paid 20 quid. But make sure you've got plenty of time to play it or this will happen. No one can stop Mr Domino. What an amazing concept, and I can absolutely guarantee you it's going to be so much fun if you guys choose to play it in 2023. Be careful though, it's very, very difficult. I was really struggling to drop the dominoes in a sequence that would get me the combos I needed to succeed, but still definitely worth it. I paid 20 quid for it about 4 years ago. Imagine your protagonist being a beach ball. I mean a beach ball, right? What is this voodoo you do? Well, actually, this is Cool World, and this again is another one of those revolutionary titles that is often overlooked. Be careful though, this will cost you a pretty penny, anywhere from £80 on the cheap side, CIB, up to £150. Now, back in the day, there was a demo of this that me and my brother played over and over again, and the premise is, I would say, pretty simple, but it can get very tricky. You play on these weird isometric puzzle levels with absolutely barely anything in the background. You can collect items, obviously items give you points, you can collect all the fruit, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, it tells you what you need to collect, but the main thing is you need to collect keys. Keys open the exits, but exits can often be fraught with difficulty, and obviously jumps, if you mistime them, you will fall, and obviously that means you've lost a life. So as you can see on this level, there's 2 keys to collect. You need to navigate around, you can twist and turn, but you can only turn if you hit the kind of top points of a level, for example. I know that's not a very good explanation, but trust me, once you play it, you'll know exactly what I mean. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a hidden gem because a lot of people are aware of it, unlike Mr Domino, but this is one you definitely need to check out. I really enjoy this, and it's another one that for me, it opened my eyes a little bit, as I wouldn't class myself as a fan of puzzle games, but I really like this. So it's kind of odd, but check it out guys, this is Cool World. Thankfully I picked it up a few years ago and I only paid £30 for it. But yeah, it's an expensive one. And there was a demo back in the day with that game on Courier World. We never had the game, we used to play the demo over and over again, and as you saw in the gameplay, as the levels do progress, it does get very, very difficult. So you need to be quick on the mark, it's a lot of muscle memory, so you need to be prepared to play the levels over and over again to figure out the different combinations and paths and jumps that you need to do to succeed. It's definitely been a while since I've done an episode where I've recommended games. I usually talk about Amiga games that you need to play, but I think I've exhausted the list now of all of the Amiga games. But there is another Amiga game coming up, and I'm going to be doing an interview over on my website with the developer, so there'll be some nice information. I'm not going to say any more, but I'll share it out on all of my socials once it's live. Again, if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like rating or just share a comment below and let me know what some of the games you've played that we might not have heard of. Maybe there's some recommendations on what we need to buy and or play. But for now, guys, I hope you're having a wicked day. Thanks ever so much for being here. My name is Gemma, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. I need a few seconds of your time to tell you about channel memberships. If you guys want to become a channel member, click join from the main page or the second link in the description. There are 3 tiers, all with different perks for you if you want to become a team member. Thanks for your time. Let's continue with the video.